ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः शिवतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पदान सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्ते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Okay, so welcome everyone to IBC Siksha. We are reading from the 15th chapter. We are on the 10th verse of it. So this chapter is called Purushottam Yoga, and in this particular month that is going on, which is Adhik Mas, this particular chapter is chanted every day. So we are lucky enough to read from this chapter. Okay, so before we go forward, just a recap of this chapter. Krishna starts saying about the Vedas, but he gives a very interesting analogy that the Vedas are actually inverted tree. The roots are going upwards, the branches are going down. So in our whole experience, do we ever see an inverted tree? No, right? We only see an inverted tree in a reflection. So therefore, the tree and its fruits can never be really tasted in the reflection. That is the understanding of that analogy. Okay. In this inverted tree, there is liberation, there are economic development, there is pleasures, there is there are so many things, so many bodies are there. So the living entity can jump from one branch to another and he can enjoy, he can experience and all that. Now whatever he experiences is of dual nature. What is dual nature?
Happiness and distress, no Prabhuji.
Yeah, happiness means there are always two sides. There is always a flip side to everything. um, let's say, people today, engineers, they want higher package, but what is the flip side of getting higher package? Do you know?
More work.
Yeah, more work, and sometimes that work never ends also. And then,
Yes, sir.
yeah, so everything has a flip side. Everything has a flip side. So basically Krishna is trying to say it is like this, that there exists a real tree, and then there exists this Vedas, which is inverted tree, which is a reflection. And here whatever we do, whatever relationships we try, and whatever we try to enjoy, eating, sleeping, mating, defending, relationships, artha kama moksha, artha kama dharma moksha, all these things that we try, they sometimes give us happiness and sometimes they give us distress. Therefore Krishna says this tree has to be cut by weapon of detachment, and then one has to really go to the real tree. So Krishna said that real tree is my abode. When you reach there, then there will be perfect happiness, there will be eternal happiness. So the relationships which are there in the spiritual world are of four types. I don't know if I have discussed this with you. There's basically actually there are five types of relationships. Shantaras, then Dasyaras, Sakhyaras, Vatsalyaras, and Madhuryaras. So what does that mean is Shantaras is you serve Krishna quietly, like a flute, clothes, cow, tree. Then you serve Krishna as a servant, like Hanuman is serving Lord Ram. Similarly, you can serve as a servant. Then as a friend, the love is so intensified that you want to serve Krishna as a friend, like Arjuna. And so many gopas are there, no? So many friends are there. Then the love so much intensifies that you want to protect Krishna. There is a difference when a friend protects and a parent protects, right? A parent's protection to the child is very very intense. So when that feeling comes, then it's a relationship of Vatsalya. Yashoda, Nanda Maharaj, Devaki, Vasudev, Vidura. And then you want to love Krishna as a conjugal lover, that is Madhurya Ras. There is this Gopis, Lakshmi, they all come in this space. So, in our world, present world that we are in, these are the relationships that we have with other people, right? To some are we servants, to some are we friends, to some are we parents, and to one we are married husband or wife, right? Similarly, Krishna has all these relationships in the spiritual world, but they are eternal relationships, and there is eternal happiness over there. It is not interrupted. In this world, it is anything that we have. Every relationship is interrupted, right? Yes or no? Relationship, goal, life is interrupted, right? So Krishna is saying we should aspire to go to the spiritual world. So by this analogy, he is trying to explain us how to go to the spiritual world. Now, in this whole section, what we read, that there is a banyan tree, weapon of detachment we should use, and then cut this tree, and then seek a place from which, having gone, no one returns. That is to the Vaikuntha planets. And what is required? We should be free from false prestige, illusion, false association, understand the eternal, who are done with materialist, free from dualities of happiness and distress, and unbewildered. They can reach. And then Krishna says about his abode. He says it doesn't require sun, moon, electricity. When we go and buy a flat or a house, what's the first thing that we see? If the flat is already made, what's the first thing that we see? Anybody? Can you hear me?
Yes, Prabhuji. We
Yeah.
are able to hear.
What do you see? No. What do
How
you see?
much big it is,
How much big it is? Yes. Anything
and
more?
what are the facilities available, like,
Huh.
and what is maybe if we want to cook, then we'll see kitchen, how big it is,
Okay.
all like points are there or not.
Yes. And anything more? You will see whether electricity is there or not. Points are
Yes,
there or
yes,
not. Like I know what you're telling. Anything
yes.
more?
That's all, Prabhuji. Basic needs and almara, cupboards.
No, that all is furniture.
Yeah.
Will you
Water,
feel
water, water will come.
water?
Water problem
Yes,
is there
water
or
you will
not?
see. Definitely water you will see. Anything more? The windows,
Windows and the sunlight will come or not?
sunlight. Yes. So see, we look wherever we go, we look at all these three things, right? Sun, electricity, fire is there or not, gas is there or not, some connection is there or not, and moon, is it hot always or it is cool also? So technically, we are wherever we go, we look for all these things, right?
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
Prabhuji.
So Krishna immediately knows our needs. So he says, if you come to my abode, you don't need this four. It is already there. Getting?
Yes, Prabhuji.
It's like, we go to a five-star hotel and everything is there. Suppose, suppose your company sends to, some other city and then tells that this whole week over there, you're going to be in this five-star hotel, Taj Mahal or Marriott or Lee Meridian. Do you worry about electricity? Do you ask your HR, hey, is there electricity in that hotel? Will I get water there? Do you ask such things to your HR?
No, no, Prabhuji.
Why? Why?
Because in hotel it is everything is available.
Yeah, because and it was a five-star hotel, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so there is no question of that facilities won't be there. So Krishna is making a point, and he's telling that in my abode, these facilities are not required because it is self-illuminated. In this world, we require a sun, a moon, a fire, electricity to survive and to live, right? To eat. But in the supreme abode, you get everything without these things because everything is self-illuminated. So such information should be captivating, right? Should be very interesting. There's some noise coming. You can mute. Okay, and then Krishna says, all living entities are my part and parcel, but they are struggling with this in this world, which includes the mind. Right? We are all struggling, right? Every day we are struggling. Every moment we are struggling, and our mind, if we don't control, then the struggle even becomes even more tough. And then he tells that we keep getting new bodies, one after the another, one after the another. We quit one, we get one. I have a nice picture. I'll just show you. Here, just like we change clothes, similarly we change bodies, and we keep getting new bodies at the time of death. So this cycle is going on. Only one who so we get a particular type of ear, eyes, nose, sense of touch, because that's what we desire and that's what we deserve. We desire a particular type of eyes, ears, nose, and that's what we deserve, so we get that set. Just like I last time I was explaining about costume, where it is. What role we can play, we will get this kind of costume in it, right? And then when we get that costume, we can experience the features that the costume gives and the limitations that the costume has, right? We experience both of it, and then we try to enjoy in it, like hmm. So Krishna talks about it, and then he says, okay, now today's verse 10th, we'll go into it. Who can understand this thing? The foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of the modes of material nature. One who has eyes are trained in knowledge, one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this. Suppose you go to a mall, any mall you may go, there are automatic doors over there, right? Which open and close all by themselves. Yes? Have you seen such doors?
Yes, yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Not only in malls, but in software companies also same thing, no, Prabhuji.
Right. So, if a child sees this door opening and closing, what do? They will play with it, right? They'll sometimes go near, then they'll sometimes go far. They will run inside and outside, right? We will see that they will play with these automatic doors. But do engineers play with this automatic door? No, right?
No,
Why?
Prabhuji.
Why? Because they are
Then
trained in
they know
knowledge.
technology. Yes.
Yeah, they know how this thing works. They are not childish. See, when we train a child and he starts understanding, like, sometimes some small children, they like to play in the lift. They will go up, they'll go down, they'll go up, they'll come down. But if you explain the children, how to use the lift and when to use the lift, when you should not use the lift, then do the child do play again with the lift? No, right? Similarly, if our eyes are trained in knowledge, if we are trained in this knowledge, then we can see this transmigration happening. We can see, one body to another changing. So, can you give me some proof by which we can understand that, um, we are getting new bodies? Is there any scientific proof? Now, we are today in the science world, right? So, what are the scientific proofs? Can you tell? Scientific proofs for afterlife or new life after death. Now we are reading Bhagavad Gita, right? And if we tell this is what Bhagavad Gita is saying, they will say what is the scientific proof of it. So do you know any scientific proof? How can you prove this is happening? Yes, someone can say, right? Oh, this just books. What you're from the bookish knowledge, what you will get. How are you going to? Uh, how are you going to explain if your child asks this thing? What is the scientific proof of afterlife, new life after death? I don't believe in Bhagavad Gita. Then how are you going to give the scientific proof? Do you know any answer? Can you hear me? Do you know of any answer? Okay. So I'll give you. First is, have you heard about reincarnation? Reincarnation. These are studies made where some people they can remember their past life, and it has been attributed that those past life have been true. There are many such examples. Uh, let's see some. I have this document, where there are proofs are mentioned. Let me know if you can hear this.
When we first met James Leininger, he was a normal 7-year-old with a unique passion.
I can read the Japanese easy as pie.
An extreme fascination with World War II fighter planes, his parents say began as a toddler.
And I said, oh, look, there's a bomb on the bottom. He said, that's not a bomb, that's a drop tank.
Then came the violent drawings and night terrors.
Bombing ships, you see men parachuting. Here's another one where planes are dropping bombs.
Help me.
He would just be crying. He'd say, airplane crash on fire, little man can't get out. He laid on his back and kicked up at the ceiling, and he goes, Mama, the little man's going like this. And he laid on his back and kicked his feet up. The little man's going, ooh, 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 can't get out. And I said, well, who's the little man, baby? And he goes, me. I thought Bruce and I were just going to faint.
They questioned, what kind of plane?
Corsair.
Why did your airplane crash?
My plane was shot down.
Who shot your plane?
He looked at me like I was a village idiot. He said,
The Japanese.
He said his name was James,
But his name is James.
whose plane took off from the USS Natoma Bay and was shot down over Chichijima. The Leiningers hoped to disprove it, but learned it was all real, including a pilot named James Houston. Leo Pyatt served with Houston.
Yes, there was a Jim Houston, a rather large shell. Just hit him in the engine, and it burst into flames and went down.
James recognized other shipmates by name and told his mother about James Houston's most treasured possessions and his sisters, Annie and Ruth.
It freaked me out.
This looks like an amusement park ride, but to James, it's a World War II flight simulator. He has more than 50 specific memories. Reincarnation experts call it the most documented case ever.
It's a great case because it is verifiable.
Carol Bowman spent over 2 decades researching reincarnation. Her books and guidance helped the Leiningers on their journey.
She was so helpful, and then the nightmares immediately started reducing.
Carol's advice came from personal.
Could you hear this? So these are reincarnation proofs that the person could remember from the previous life. That is one scientific proof. Second is near-death experience or out-of-body experience. Out-of-body experience, this is when, when people, they are in, it is seen that they are in operation theater, and then they are put into, as anesthesia, and after the whole operation, the patient sometimes come out and he says that I was able to see what you all are doing, doctors, and they are able to give details. So question comes that how one could come out of his body and see. So there is something within the body that is separate from it, that is eternal. From the reincarnation, there is something in the body that doesn't die, that goes from one body to another. And out of body experience, you can come out of it also. Okay, so these are the scientific proofs of soul, of life after death. Any question on this? Okay, so when we are trained in this knowledge, then we can see, okay, how we are getting new bodies, how everyone is getting new bodies. We can see that. Okay, can someone read this purport? Can you read this purport? You can unmute yourself and read. Okay, let me read. The word Jnana Chakshuha, is very significant. Without knowledge, one cannot understand how a living entity leaves his present body, nor what form of body he is going to take in the next life, or even why he is living in a particular type of body. This requires a great amount of knowledge understood from Bhagavad Gita and similar literatures heard from bona fide spiritual master. One who is trained to perceive all these things is fortunate. Every living entity is quitting this body under circumstances. He is living under circumstances, and he is enjoying under certain circumstances under the spell of material nature. As a result, he is suffering different kinds of happiness and distress under the illusion of sense enjoyment. Persons who are everlastingly fooled by lust and desire lose all power to understand their change of body and their stay in a particular body. They cannot comprehend it. Those who have developed spiritual knowledge, however, can see that the spirit is different from the body and is changing its body and enjoying it in different ways. A person in such knowledge can understand how the conditioned living entity is suffering in this existence, material existence. Therefore, those who are highly developed in Krishna consciousness try their best to give this knowledge to the people in general. For their conditioned life is very troublesome, they should come out of it and be Krishna conscious and liberate themselves to transfer to the spiritual world. So, by this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, we can understand that we are getting new bodies. And then the Bhagavad Gita also tells us how to come out of it and how to stop this cycle of birth and death and transfer to the spiritual world. Okay, 11th verse. The endeavoring transcendentalist who are situated in self-realization can see all this clearly, but those minds are who are but whose minds are not developed and who are not situated in self-realization cannot see what is taking place. Okay. So mind should be developed. And what does that mean is those who are practicing some spiritual uh, practices, right? They can also see this clearly that the body is changing, the soul is moving from one body to another.
Prabhuji, what is the exact meaning of self-realization? Even not only in
Yeah.
ISKCON we speak about self-realization, where in every other, those who follow other things also, they
See,
will speak about
self-realization, yes.
self-realization.
Self-realization means realizing self as different than body and as spirit soul, Atma. Okay? So, this is the basic understanding of self-realization. There is little more to this. Self-realization includes understanding self as spirit soul and realizing this is our bhakti understanding. One is understand that we are spirit soul. Second is realize that there is a supreme Lord who is controller and proprietor and friend of everything and friend of all. That is one more level of understanding self-realization. And the third and the final is we are part and parcel of the Supreme and his eternal servant. Okay, when we revive this eternal relationship with Supreme, this is called bhakti. And bhakti is the ultimate self-realization definition. Okay, does it help? Does it help, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So many spiritual organizations, they only talk about this first line. Some of them talk about the second line also, the first and second. And those who are in bhakti, they will talk all about all three. Okay.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So all the three means self-realization. It's not just about the self. It is about the Supreme and our relationship with the Supreme.
Yeah, but Om Shanti people, they won't speak about
Yeah. They will only talk about first.
first one.
Yeah. Most of them will talk about the first only. It is only
Okay.
those who are bhaktas, they will talk about the next two. Okay. Can you read this?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Hmm.
The splendor of sun which dissipates the darkness of this whole world comes from me. And the splendor of moon and the splendor of fire also from me. Purport. Can I read, Prabhuji?
Just hold
Purport
on, please.
also.
1 minute, wait. It's a big purport, so we'll only read part of it. Yeah, read this part.
From this verse, we can understand that the sun is
Illuminating.
illuminating the whole solar system. There are different universes and solar system, and there are different suns, moons, and planet also. But in each universe, there is only one sun. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 10.21, moon is one of the stars. Nakshatra Aham Shashi. Sunlight is due to spiritual effulgence in the spiritual sky of Supreme Lord. With the rays of sun, activities of human beings are set up. They set fire to prepare their foodstuffs. They set fire to start the factories, etc. So many things are done with the help of fire. Therefore, sunrise, fire, and moonlight are so pleasing to the living entities. Without their help, no living entity can live. So, if one can understand that light and splendor of sun, moon, and fire are emanating from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, then once Krishna conscious will begin.
Yeah. So, sun, moon, all of these are required for our sustenance, right? So when we see Krishna in it, then our Krishna consciousness begins. Okay. So therefore, we should see Krishna in everything. Without his mercy, there cannot be sun. Without his mercy, there cannot be moon. There cannot be fire. And without all this, we cannot live. Okay. So by just thinking that, our Krishna consciousness, please. Okay. Can you read this translation?
Yes, Prabhuji. I enter into each planet and by my energy they stay in orbit. I become moon and thereby supply juices of life to all vegetables.
Yeah. So sun helps in growing the plants, right? And it gives rain and all that, right? Rain, fire, warmth. But what is the function of the moon?
It
The
adds taste to the vegetables and fruits.
Yeah. So whatever juice, whatever taste we taste na, in the vegetables, it comes from the moon. So in the night time, the vegetables are actually, under the influence of the moonlight, they are they are uh, they are generating those kind of taste. Some vegetables are sweet, some are sour, some are bitter, right? Some are salty. Okay.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So in this also we'll read part of it. See, first thing Krishna says is, I enter into each planet and by my energy they stay in orbit. So according to science, how do planets are moving? How planets are moving according to science, today's science? How they are
In
moving in
orbit,
orbit? Hmm.
they rotate
Because of
around
what reason?
sun in the orbit because of centrifugal and centripetal forces.
Gravity,
Gravity is.
gravitational forces. But according to Bhagavad Gita, it is
Krishna enters into each planet and by
yes,
his
yes,
energy they stay in orbit.
yeah. This is according to Bhagavad Gita. Okay. um. Okay, let's read this part of the purport. Can you read?
It is due to Supreme Personality of Godhead that moon nourishes all vegetables. Due to moon's influence, vegetables become delicious. Without the moonshine, vegetables can neither grow nor taste succulent. Human society is working, living comfortably, and enjoying food due to supply from the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, mankind could not survive. The word rasa, rasatmakaha is very significant. Everything become palatable by agency of Supreme Lord through influence of moon.
Yes. Okay. Okay, let's move forward. 14th verse. I am fire of digestion in the bodies of living entities. There are chemicals in our body, right? In our stomach.
Yes, Prabhuji, HCl will be there.
Yeah. Or and other chemicals also there. So basically, when
Yes, sir.
chemicals they mix with food, fire is generated, right? So this fire is not like exactly outside fire, but it's a fire where the food is burnt and the nutrients are absorbed, and the food is then digested basically. So that fire of digestion is Krishna. So if you are having any stomach problem, we should understand that Krishna's mercy is very less today. I join the air of life, outgoing, incoming, to digest the four kinds of foods. So air goes in and out, and that's how the digestion of the four kinds of food stuff happen. uh, this section also. Can you read this section?
Okay, Prabhuji. According to Ayurvedic Shastra, we understand that there is a fire in the stomach which digests all the food sent there. When the fire is not blazing, there is no hunger. When the fire is in order, we become hungry. Sometimes, when a fire is not going nicely, treatment is required. In any case, fire is representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vedic mantras, Brahad, Aranyaka, Upanishad 5.9.1 also confirm that Supreme Lord or Brahman is situated in the form of fire within the stomach and is digesting all kinds of food stuff. Aham Agner Vaisheshwanaro Yo Yam Ata Paruse Yanadam Annam Pachat. Therefore, since he is helping the digestion of all kinds of foodstuff, the living entity is not independent in eating process. Unless Supreme Lord helps him in digesting, there is no possibility of eating. He thus produces and digests foodstuff, and by His grace, we are enjoying life.
Yes. So if if things are getting digested in our body, do we know what is happening inside our stomach? No, right? We just,
HCl acid will generate, Prabhuji,
yeah, that's
and
fine.
food.
But do we really know? Okay, now that I have put one morsel, 5 ml of HCl should be released. Do we think all this?
No, we won't think.
Yeah. So all this is very happening automatically in this machine. That's why Krishna says you are not the doer, right? When we eat, our body works, and there is a whole system which provides energy to all part of the body. So if we say we eat, do we really eat? We only do the part of putting the food in our mouth. That's it. Later, the whole thing is taken care by the body. Do we ever tell the body now release 5 ml of HCl? Now food, you go to large intestine, then you go to small intestine. There pull out vitamins and nutrients, and then come out from the anus. Do we think all that? Do we give some kind of order? No, right? It happens automatically because
No
this
problem.
body is a machine, and we have seen this picture, but I'll show you again. See, this body is just a machine. Eyes are like cameras. The heart is a pump, water pump. In this case, it is a blood pump. It's pumping blood all over the body. The legs are like tires, lungs are like carburetor, and the hands and legs are like pneumatic machines. And then there is a soul who is driving the whole thing. And the super soul, he's watching what the soul is doing and he's permitting. Get it? So if he sees gulab jamun, he just places the gulab jamun on the tongue. That's it. After that, whatever happens, the soul is like unaware of what what is happening, right? To the gulab jamun. Huh? The next day, the gulab jamun comes out from the anus. So yeah, that's the machine that we are saying. Okay, now this is a very important verse. I will go to the Sanskrit of it. It's a very interesting verse. Sarvasya chaham ridhi sannivishto matah smritir jnanam apohanam cha Vedesh sarve rahameva vedyo vedantakrit veda videva chaham. What does it say? Sarvasya chaham ridhi sannivishto. I am seated in everyone's heart. Ridhi is heart. Sannivishto is situated. I am situated in everyone's heart. Sarvasya. Sa aham. I. So Krishna is saying, I am situated in everyone's heart. And what is he doing? Mattah smritir jnanam apohanam cha. Saying he is giving us smriti. Smriti is what? Remembrance. Jnanam is knowledge. Apohanam cha. It means forgetfulness. So these three things he is giving us: remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Vedesha sarver aham eva vedyo. From the whole of the Vedas, I am to be known. Aham. From the whole of the Vedas, sarva Vedas, from all the Vedas, I am to be known. Aham. Vedanta krit veda videham cha. So there is a great literature called as Vedanta, the Anta, the end of Vedas. Who has compiled it? Krishna says, I have compiled it. It's a very important verse. You can remember this verse, 15.15. Can you read?
Yes, Prabhuji. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of Vedas.
Read the purport also.
Okay, Prabhuji. The purport: the Supreme Lord is situated as a Paramatma in.
Sorry. 1 minute. Read.
Supreme Lord is situated as Paramatma in everyone's heart, and it is from him that all activates are initiated. The wing entities forgets everything of his past life, but he has to act according to the direction of Supreme Lord, who is witness to all his work. Therefore, he begins his work according to his past deeds. Required knowledge is supplied to him, and remembrance is given to him, and he forgets also about his past life. Thus, Lord is not only all pervading, he is also localized in every individual heart. He awards different fruitive results. He is worshipable not only as an impersonal Brahman, Supreme Personality of Godhead, and localized Paramatma, but as a form of incarnation of Vedas as well. Vedas give the right direction to the people so that they can properly mold their lives and come back to Godhead. Godhead back to home. Vedas offer knowledge of Supreme Personality of a Godhead, Krishna, and Krishna in his incarnation has a Vyasa Deva is a compiler of a Vedanta Sutra commentation on the Vedanta Sutra by Vyasadeva in the Srimad Bhagavatam gives a real understanding of Vedanta Sutra. The Supreme Lord is so full that for deliverance of conditioned soul, he is a supplier and a digester of foodstuff, witness of his activity and the giver of knowledge in the form of Vedas, and as a supreme personality of Godhead. Sri Krishna, the teacher of Bhagavad Gita, is worshipable by
Condition.
conditioned soul that God is all good, God is all merciful. Atha pravastita sasta shastra jananam ga, and gananam. The living entity forgets as soon as
Antah pravishta shastha jananam.
jananam.
Hmm.
Hasta pratishta shasta jananam. Living entity forgets as soon as he quits his present body, but he begins his work again initiated by the Supreme Lord. Although he forgets, the Lord gives him intelligence to renew his work where he ended his lost life. So not only does living entity enjoy or suffer in this world according to the dictation from the Supreme Lord situated locally in the heart, but he receives the opportunity to understand Vedas from him. If one is serious about understanding the Vedic knowledge, then the Krishna gives the required intelligence. Why does he present the Vedic knowledge for understanding? Understand because the living entity individually needs to understand Krishna. The Vedic literature confirms this. Yosav Sarvair Veda Jiyate. In all
Hmm.
Vedic literature, beginning from the four Vedas, Vedanta Sutra, Upanishad and Puranas, glories of Supreme Lord are celebrated by performance of Vedic rituals, discussion of Vedic philosophy and worship of the Lord in the devotional service is attained. Therefore, purpose of Vedas is to understand Krishna. Vedas give us a direction by which to understand Krishna and the process of realizing Him. Ultimate goal is Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vedanta Sutra confirms this in the following words: Tattu Saman
Yat.
Vayata. One can attain perfection in the three stages by understanding Vedic literature. One can understand his relation with Supreme Personality of Godhead by performing the different process. One can understand him, and at the end, one can attain Supreme Goal, who is no other than Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this verse, the purpose of Vedas, the understanding of Vedas, and the goal of Vedas are clearly defined.
Yeah. So this is a very important verse. So I made you read the whole purport. So as I said, that this verse says that he's seated in everyone's heart, and from him comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So when we, uh, when we take birth, Krishna makes us remember what all we want to do in this life. That's why we have this psychophysical nature. Some want to become a businessman, some want to become a king, a politician, a sports person, some just want to work. So all that remembrance Krishna is giving. And whatever knowledge is required, Krishna is giving. And he's making us forget also. Okay. So if we want Vedic knowledge, then he will give us Vedic knowledge. Because from the Vedas he is to be known, and he is the compiler of the Vedas. So, as Prabhupada says here, that in this verse, purpose of the Vedas is there. What is the purpose of Vedas? To understand Krishna. Understanding of the Vedas is there. To again understand Krishna. And the goal of the Veda is there. What is the goal of Vedas? Krishna. Okay. So if someone is asking why we Hare Krishnas talk only about Krishna, 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 then what will be your answer? What is your answer? Someone asks you, your Hare Krishna is always only talking about Krishna, nothing else you talk. No other God, nothing. Why?
Understanding of Krishna is understanding of Vedas, Prabhuji.
Yes. How will you explain that to the person who's asking you?
From him only the Vedas has originated.
He will ask where it is written.
Vyasadeva wrote all.
No, Vyasadeva wrote, that's fine. But this is the verse that we need to point. 15.15.
Okay,
Okay.
15.15. Okay.
Yeah, this is the proof. This is the proof. From all the Vedas, I am to be known. I is who here? Krishna. Who wrote Vedanta? Krishna wrote Vedanta. Who is sitting in everyone's heart? Does any demigod say that I am sitting in everyone's heart? Lord Shiva, Ganesha? No, right? Only Krishna says he is sitting in everyone's heart. Where to see? Here, 15.15. So this is called proof. So if anybody asks us, why Krishna, why only Krishna, then this is the verse from Bhagavad Gita, 15.15. Very easy to remember. Okay, now let's go forward.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, what if someone comes and challenge back that says that in Shiv Puran it is written that Shiva says that I'm in the everyone's.
Yes, yes.
So because such situation comes, then because
Mm-hmm.
you say you are reading
Yeah.
Krishna books, so you are talking in those terms. If you'll read Quran or Shiv Puran,
No,
then you
that's
will.
fine. Yes, that's a good question you have asked. So it is not just in Shiv Puran also, even in Bhagavatam. If you go to Bhagavatam, right? There, in one of the cantos, if I'm right, in one of the cantos, let's see quickly. Yeah, chanting the song. Let's here, the Prachetas, they meet Lord Shiva, and when they meet Lord Shiva, the Prachetas are praying that you are the supreme, you are the supreme. They're saying that.
Who are Prachetas, Prabhuji?
They are sons of a great king and all that. That the detail is there in the story. So then, Lord Shiva just accepts it, and then he talks about the Supreme Lord. So Lord Shiva is Shiva Tattva. So any person who comes from the government has to be treated as on par of the government, right? You cannot say, like, let's say, the chief minister's secretary come to your place. You will treat him as if the chief minister has come, right? Similarly, Lord Shiva, he's treated on as such as Lord Krishna, but when it comes to he himself telling, he will say that I also worship Krishna. Okay, so if the person is little open, right? If the person is little open, in you can show this Krishna book. In Krishna book, there's one chapter. Chapter number comes at the end. Lord Krishna fights Banasura. Chapter 63. 63, right? Okay. There's Banasura and deliverance of Lord Shiva. 88. 88 chapter we should read. 63 and 88 chapter. Okay, Mataji?
Okay, Prabhuji.
Yeah, in this Lord Shiva
Krishna book.
himself will speak.
Okay, in Krishna book, chapter 63 and 88, right?
Yes.
Okay.
These two chapters you can see what Lord Shiva is saying. I think 63 is even better because that's where he says.
63 of which canto, Prabhuji?
Krishna book.
Krishna book, okay. That is
Canto 10,
Canto
chapter
10,
number 63. Canto 10, chapter number 63.
chapter number 63. Here in that Krishna is the supreme, they will tell, na?
Lord Shiva will himself will say. Like let me just okay. There are some prayers. That Lord Shiva says here. Shiva Jora, he also speaks, and then Lord Shiva, he said, "My dear Lord, you are the worshipable object of the Vedic hymns. One who does not know you consider the impersonal Brahmajyoti to be the ultimate supreme personality, supreme absolute truth. Without knowledge that you exist beyond this spiritual effulgence in your internal abode. My dear Lord, you are called Para Brahman. Okay, indeed, the word Para Brahman have been used in Bhagavad Gita to identify you. Okay, saintly person who have completely cleansed their heart, like that. He keeps saying, there's so many prayers that he says. Right now, I cannot read all of it, but read this prayers and you will see what Lord Brahma is saying. Lord Shiva is saying. Okay.
Okay. Prabhuji, ye Canto 10 has many parts, I think, right?
So the way to find it is you have the book, right? You have the book.
I have the book.
So okay. Oh, sorry. Canto 10. So you go by the number. I think the numbering will be the same.
Okay.
Numbering
Okay,
is same.
Prabhuji, understood. The chapter number would be unique
63.
only.
Yeah. Go to 63 and 88.
Okay, Prabhuji.
63. Lord Krishna fights Banasura. And then
Okay.
88. These two chapters you read. But then again, if someone is very fanatic, right? And they are not ready to accept it. And we know that he will not accept. Then what we should do? Then we should not explain. Then we should say what you're doing is right. Go and worship Lord Shiva. Why? Krishna himself says in 7th chapter.
Because their time has not come yet, or
No. If they have some interest in worshipping a demigod, then he will himself give faith. I am in everyone's heart. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod, I make his faith steady so that he can devote himself to that particular deity. Okay, so Krishna is saying like this.
okay.
And then Krishna also says like okay, there is one more verse which will help you understand why. I always use the word disturb, but I don't think disturbed is used. Okay. Just hold on. I think I had shared that verse. I will just look at it. Last time I shared that verse. It's a very instructive verse. Whenever we find in the conflicts, right? 3.26. 3.26. Third can. Third. So as not to disturb the minds of ignorant men attached to the fruitive results of prescribed duties. Okay, so such people are ignorant, definitely. Then what we should do? We should not disturb their mind, not to disturb them. Don't disturb them, don't disrupt them. Okay, then what we should do? A learned person, because we know Bhagavad Gita, we are kind of learned only, should not induce them to stop work. If they are worshipping, they are having that faith to worship Lord Shiva, Ganesha, whatever, we should not stop it. Okay, we see that okay, they're doing it and they're not ready to. Then what we should do? By working in the spirit of devotion, we should work in bhakti, and we should intelligently engage them in all sorts of activities for gradual development of Krishna consciousness. So if they can, if they continue doing the service to their deity, and at the same time we intelligently make them serve Krishna also, from some service. What that service could be, if that person is a merchant, then we can say, can you give something for Krishna? He may give some money, some grains, vegetables, right? Janmashtami is coming. Devotees go to all kinds of shops and then they ask for donation. Then that shopkeeper, what he says, okay, I will give you this grain. Come 5 days before Janmashtami, I will give you 10 kgs of grain. Now they are not going to worship Krishna or become bhakti. If you look at them, they are always worshipping. Who are they worshipping? The shopkeepers. Whose photo do we see in their shops?
Lakshmi Devi.
Yeah, Lakshmi Devi, Ganesha.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, they only want Lakshmi. They never want Narayan. Right? So then how to do that? Then we should not disturb their mind, but we should intelligently engage them in Krishna consciousness. Okay? So this is how we need to deal. Got it?
Yes.
Okay. So remember this verse, 3.226, and it will help you. Okay? So let's move forward. 16th verse. Now, Krishna is going to talk about his position. Okay. Who he is. So in the 15th verse, he definitely said, I am sitting in everyone's heart. But there's still a difference. Now, why he tells these verses, I'll explain. Suppose in a jail, there are many inmates, criminals. And one day, the jailer comes inside the jail. The jailer or the chief minister comes. Now, if an inmate is thinking, hey, the chief minister has come. What kind of crime has he done? Which crime he did? Do you think the chief minister did any crime? Yes?
No.
Why? Because we know that he has come to visit. Right? So when Krishna is saying, I am seated in everyone's heart, I come in this world again and again. So someone may think, okay, maybe he's coming due to his karma. Huh? Maybe he's one of us only. So then now Krishna is going to talk about that he is not even one of us. And he explains in 16, 17, 18 verse. I will give you a short this thing. We'll just read this 3 verses and we will understand. Then we'll go into the purport. So in 16, what he says, there are 2 classes of beings, the fallible and infallible. Means those who fall down to material world and those who never fall down to material world. In the material world, every living entity is fallible. In the spiritual world, every living entity is infallible. Now, interestingly says, besides these two, there is a greatest living personality, the Supreme Soul, the imperishable Lord Himself, who has entered the three worlds and is maintaining them. Now, interestingly, there are only two words, right? Fallible, infallible. Right? In a coin, there are how many sides to a coin? Only two sides, right? Head and tail. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah. So there can there be a third thing to it? No, right? So
No.
you understand this thing that he's saying there's a definition of fallible and then there's a definition of infallible. But he says besides the two, meaning there is fallible, infallible, and there's a third kind also. How is that possible? See, there is fallible. Its opposite is what? The opposite of fallible is infallible. Right? Like, give me some opposites word. Like, let's say up. What is the opposite of up? What is the opposite of up? Down, right? Left, right. These are opposites, right? So either you can be up or you can be down. You cannot be a third kind. Similarly, if there is a fallible, then there has to be infallible. Now Krishna says, I am neither fallible, I am neither infallible. You understanding this? He's neither fallible, he's neither infallible. Meaning these definitions don't apply to him. They only apply to the living entities. They only apply to the living entities. Where are we? And he says that is the imperishable Lord. But in the 18th one, he says, who is maintaining this world? Who has entered into the planets? We read that, right, in previous verses. Who entered into the planets and held them? Gravity? No, right? Krishna entered into the planets. Now he's saying the Supreme Soul has entered into the three worlds and maintaining them. So who is the Supreme Soul? Who is the Supreme Soul? Who is the Supreme Soul?
Krishna.
Krishna is the Supreme Soul. So that's what he says in the 18th verse. He says, because I am transcendental, beyond both fallible and infallible. See, Krishna is transcendental. He is neither fallible, he is neither infallible. These definitions don't apply to him. And because I am the greatest, I am celebrated both in the world and in the Vedas as that supreme person. Okay?
In some slokas, they mention as infallible, no, Prabhuji.
What? Sorry?
Some slokas, they mention that Krishna is infallible.
Yes, they mention. So, the thing is, he's even beyond infallible. See, sometimes, to make common people understand, we have to use common words, right? Like, what to say, to children, if you're explaining, you have to explain them in their own words, right? But does
Okay.
it, but
Okay,
does it
Prabhuji.
really mean that? No, it is just to explain them, right? So sometimes this word infallible is used, but technically Krishna is not even infallible. He is transcendental. This is the word that needs to be used, transcendental. Yasmacharam aditoham aksharadapi chottamatosmi veke lo. There's a pratitaha purushottam. Atitaha. Atitaha is the right word to be used. Okay?
Okay, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So we will stop here. Any questions or comments? Any questions or comments?
No, Prabhuji.
Okay. Okay. Okay.